In this video, I'm going to show you how to actually put in a true site plan into a project. And what that means is actually using the massing and site topography tool to actually put a site in. If you are not too familiar with how topography works in a CAD program, it can get confusing. That's my warning right there. One thing to keep in mind when doing something like that is you are triangulating your points. In other words, you need 3 points in order to create a surface inside of Revit. And a topo surface is a civil 3D thing. What we can do is, what I like to do is I like to pull in an image from behind to use inside of my CAD or my model so that I have some type of idea of what the surface is supposed to look like. So what I normally do, I make sure I'm either on my site view or on a ground view, either or, and I'm actually going to do this through my ground view because it's a larger scale. A site plan is usually a smaller scale, and I know I could change it, but this way I get a better chance at seeing what's happening inside of the house and everything else. On a site plan, it shows you a roof, and your points can be off as far as where the walls are located. And I'm just going to show you what I mean. This is the site plan itself, and you'll notice all you see is the roof. You don't see the shape that's underneath. Sometimes the shape that's underneath here can be a little complex based off of that. So I've got my view in, and to keep us from being distracted, I'm actually going to turn a few things off so that we can really see what's actually happening on the site plan itself. And I think that's good, you know, it gets rid of some of the stuff that's going on. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go into insert, and I'm going to import an image. You know, we cannot import PDFs into Revit. And yes, you can import a DWG, but I don't have a DWG made. Sometimes all people have is just some type of map they were able to pull off of online. So that's why I'm going to use that instead. So I'm going to actually go and pull my image out that I want to use, and I actually pulled an online GIS image down. I'm going to be using that. The site that this house is actually originally on is a little flat, and I felt it wasn't as fantastic, so we're actually going to fudge the site plan a little bit. So this is the block for my image. I'm actually going to place it, but then I'm going to grow it so I can get a decent size idea of what the site is actually doing at some of these points. And like I said, this site actually does not really fit onto here, but we're using it so we can see what happens with the topo. And also on top of that, this is not an accurate piece of information. Like I said, if you want to do a certain scaling so that it looks a certain way, you're more than welcome to do so, but I'm doing it based off of this. One other thing I'm going to actually do, because in this particular project, north is up, because like I said, I pulled this from an online map. I'm going to move it over just slightly so we can kind of see. Yes, it's crooked, but that's fine. So here's the next thing that you want to do. If you did not take the time to set up sea level, which actually, yes, is something that you have to set up inside of Revit. If you are using, you have to make sure your survey points are correct, but we haven't done any of that. You know, we're doing this the quick way. So just keep in mind, you want to decide what's going to be 0, and you have to make that distinction now. And if we look at the site plan that I've pulled in, we notice that this is 740 at these moments, which then means that it is most likely, if this is doing it based off of 5, which looks like it is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, maybe this is 10, and each one of these is 2. If that's the case, then where this thing is mainly sitting is we probably want to then declare that this is ground here, that this is 0. And here's what I mean by that. So I'm going to click on massing and site, and I'm going to click on topo surface. And then from there, I'm going to click my place point, and my place point is going to be set to 0, absolute elevation of 0. Like I said, I don't have a sea level set in this project, so my 0 is my ground 0, my ground plane 0. So with that being said, I want to make sure that I go along these points that I've been given based off of my survey. So I've got to click here, and I'm just going to go slowly around. I'm not going to do the whole entire thing. You'll notice once I put in 3 points, now I have a surface. So I'm going to keep going around and hitting some of the main points on here, and you can actually keep going back, and you'll notice that, yes, you lose your points. Well, hey, what happened? Well, we've got to come back in here and give it more points. So don't worry about that. So I'm just going to keep going, and I'm going to give this thing 0s all the way around. And look at that. I can even zoom in and give a little bit more definition to some of these lines. And I'm going to come back, and I'm going to just hit my corner. Okay. So here's what you do next. Next, this is 2 foot. This line is. So I'm going to come back up here to my elevation, because I'm still in the place point tool, and I'm going to type in 2 feet. So it's now ready to put in all my 2s, and I'm going to go back through and go along this line again. So I'm going to start here, and you'll notice that now one is starting to take shape again. Now, I know you're going, well, how come it's not keeping it even, or how come I can still, you know, see some of these points outside of here? It's going to do that because it wants to show all the furthest point on something. So that's how it kind of works. Even though it works off of a triangle, it needs a square, if that makes sense, to show how the point is. So I'm just going to keep going. Now, what I could always do is I can change this to wireframe so I can see these a little bit better, but now you'll notice some of these points are a little bit better. If you run across something where you're just like, oh, that point really is off, here's how you fix it. I'm going to do an escape twice. I'm going to click on this point, and I'm just going to move it to where it needs to be. Same thing here and here. Like I said, you're going to have this moment, though, where you got to go back through and declare some things. So let's go back into this. I got to fix some of my points because they're not coming up right. Like, matter of fact, I want that point to be there. And I want this point to be here. And you'll note, you see what the contour line is doing? And so on and so forth. So I may have to go through and place some more points at the 2 foot, just so this thing can start to build the way that I want it to build. Let's see, I got a little point here that I missed. What other points? So, and then what you could always do, sometimes you have to get a little bit more specific on some things. Is this 2 foot? No. It's not. You see what that does? That actually means that that is a hill. So we don't want that one. And I'm actually going to take this point out. All you do is hit escape twice, click on the point, and hit delete, and it takes it out as if it's not in there. But you just go back through and define this a little bit more. So once again, I'm going to change this back to 0. I'm going to go to my place point tool. I'm going to change this back to 0. And I'm going to come back through, and I'm going to define some more of my moments along here. Now you're saying, well, it's still not really changing. It's okay. We may have to go through and say, okay, 1 inch. And now come through and hit along, and now you notice the contour line has changed. You see that? So you got to do some fudging sometimes, but this is why it's great to have a image underneath that shows what the actual contour lines are, especially if you're not using a CAD file or you're not importing in an actual point file from a civil program or something like that. That's just why it's great to have an image underneath it so that you can still get your contour lines pretty close to how you want them to actually show. It takes a lot of work. I'm not going to do this whole entire image in here today because it would make a really long video, but at least you can get an idea of how to start. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hit the check mark, and I'm going to say, hey, I'm done with my model for right now, or I'm done with my topo surface for right now. But I'm just going to go into 3D so you can see how the topo surface is starting to turn out. Just something to keep in mind. I'm going to put this on shaded for a second. It is set to dirt, essentially. So if you're going to be doing any type of renderings or anything like that, and you're worried about having a great grass look or something like that, I am going to be doing a video showing you how to get a really good grass image and even how to get a really good background image on your renderings. But for right now, you just need to keep in mind, remember to click on your topo surface, come over here to your materials library and open that up. And then from here, you're going to want to make sure that your site is set to grass. And there even is a preset inside of the material library that is based off a site. Matter of fact, I went too far. Site grass. Obviously, I don't have anything declared. So I could go into appearance and I could change it so that it actually reads as site. And I would have to go and change the asset, replace the asset, which is this button here. So now after I've clicked the replace asset button, I'm just going to type in grass. Keep it nice and simple. Revit's going to go through and it's going to look for all of the different grass images out there. And in my little warning with these images is the sample size for it can be a little small, so it doesn't really look as great as it could, especially if you're not using your graphics accelerator, which is what I am not using at the moment, so everything's pretty pixelated. So that's just something to keep in mind, which is why I said I'll be doing a video showing how you can do grass and get it to look pretty natural and uneven. So this is pretty much the case when it comes to how to put a site into a model. I will be showing how to do, like I said before, a different type of texture for grass and how to put in different backgrounds for different types of scenery into a Revit rendering. So stay tuned for those videos. And if there's anything that you want to see, just make sure you leave a comment down below and I will take a look at it and I'll try to address those questions as well. And also don't forget to subscribe to the channel so that you can keep an update of other videos that I put out. Thank you.